Right, hello again. We are here for another live. I have with me here the lovely, beautiful Jonathan Crawford. He is a good friend of mine. I've actually been on some of his retreats. He runs a men's mental health group called The Wing, which I'm also a part of, which he'll tell you a little bit about. And he's also a founder of Quick Nutrition. And we're going to be talking today mainly about nutrition, but also just kind of let the conversation flow, what we both believe in terms of nutrition, looking after yourselves, waking up. And yeah, lead the way, Johnny. Just introduce yourself and then we'll get cracking.
Tom, first of all, thank you so much for having me and welcoming me into your lovely community, mate. I see that you guys are doing some really positive things inside Supple Warriors, mate. So it's a pleasure to be on speaking to your community, like I said. But yeah, my name's Johnny. I'm 35 years old. I'm 12 years ex-military, and I left just at the tail end of 2022 to do all this full time because it's a passion. It's an absolute passion, and I started on this journey in regards to nutrition about 10 years ago now, yeah, 2014. And it's just been a journey of enlightenment. And the further I go into it all, it just keeps opening up new doors and the passion evolves and it's just a really interesting realm to be involved with. And I'm grateful to be a part of it. And so that's the nutrition element. And then obviously the wing that you introduced about the online community, same dynamics as yours, hosted on the school platform. And it's a group that predominantly focuses on the protection of men's mental health by doing the things that we both understand, right? Nutrition, sleep, prioritizing your health. And it's important. So it's blanketed under that, but also inside there, we're doing all sorts of different kind of things. And it's just a place that came from a personal situation that I had in my life. I ended up, me and my partner Naomi were having a baby in April, just gone there, but we ended up losing her. She came too early and she was too small to make it. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. It really, really hit me like a ton of bricks. And I understood that if I wasn't living the life that I was living, that would have put me on a downward spiral. And I understood that the things that men and women are doing within society now is setting them up for failure. So when life throws its inevitable challenges at us, we can't compartmentalize it. So it ends up putting us in a downward spiral a lot faster than it should. And I realized that because of the life that I was living, investing in my mental health, investing in my physical health, investing in my future, I was able to process it a lot quicker. Yeah, it was difficult, but I was able to process it a lot quicker. So the idea came to me, the wing, right? This is what we're going to have to show men in particular, because I do believe there's a lot of spaces and communities out there for women. And a big part of a man's healing journey is being able to talk. So it's a case of, I know a lot of men don't feel comfortable speaking up in front of women. So we want to offer them a platform that gives them the opportunity to do so if they feel like they need to speak. So it's just an amalgamation of all these positive things, as well as being strong enough to be able to talk, because it's so important. And don't get me wrong, it's a double-edged sword. There's too much of a drive of just talking. Just talking's not enough. You have to talk, you have to be able to voice your mind, but you also have to be implementing the necessary things physically within your life in order to put yourself in the best position. So, very long introduction there, Tom.
It's great. We kind of left the military at the same time, didn't we? I think so. In terms of that, like I think the good thing is in the military, you're not really taught how to speak up or how to be vulnerable. And that's I think why the wing's such a beautiful thing, because there are some military people in there, ex-military and currently serving, also people who are just from all sorts of walks of life who are trying to better themselves mentally. And a huge factor of that is what you're putting in your body. And unfortunately, in this day and age, with just so much, so how our food it comes to us, we have no idea how we get it, where it comes from. It's just in the shop, packaged up. So it's very easy to kind of not be manipulated. It kind of is being manipulated, but just if you're not really aware of where it's coming from or what you're buying, it's very easy to just pick up things that look healthy. They're packaged healthy, but they're just not. They're not good for you. I saw a post actually this morning of a guy posted current Swiss, like Switzerland food pyramid. And it's like encouraging people to eat a lot of seed oils. So I kind of think like, what's going on? You just kind of have to be a little bit more aware. Who's that?
Little Murphy,
That's
he's
cute.
wants to see
And
you.
yeah, and just kind of like, so we're going to talk a little bit today of your journey in terms of discovering things about nutrition. For me, I've been quite fortunate from a very young age. Not many people know this actually, but from I was as a kid and as like a teenager, I had the worst diet ever. Like I was super fussy as a kid. So my mum struggled to give me food a lot. I would pretty much not eat much food at all. And I was always quite a skinny kid, always very skinny, didn't eat much. I remember as a teenager, I'd literally have pot noodles and like microwave burgers. That was like all I'd eat. Um, so I was like malnourished, I guess, almost. And then I started discovering fitness and exercising at like 16, 17 years old. And then I can't become super obsessed with like looking at labels and the ingredients and like making sure I didn't even really know what I was looking for. I was just looking at things to see, oh, what's in this? And from then, I guess it became like an obsession of just what I'm putting in my body has to be good. Probably because my diet used to be so shit. I used to eat so many sweets, had so many problems with my teeth as a young boy. I used to go to the dentist all the time and have teeth out and fillings and all this crazy stuff because I just was eating sugar all the time. Um, and the dentist sort of healthcare is very different in England as it is the States. In the States, they really do look after their teeth. In England, it's a little bit different. Dentist isn't really as important, I think. But that's another topic. But yeah, anyway, I basically just started learning about eating the correct foods. And I'm a big believer in finding a balanced diet. And just, I believe every single human being is going to require a different sort of nutrition than someone else. Like what works for me might not work for everybody else. So when people come up to me and say like, what's your diet? What are you eating? I say like, I probably isn't might not work for what you eat, but as long as you try and stick to like 90% of whole one ingredient foods and as locally sourced or as organic as possible, obviously it's going to cost you more money, but if you're willing to spend money on takeaways or like accessories, clothes, handbags, shoes, whatever it might be, it's more important to spend more money on what's going in your body because you're going to be a healthier person. You're going to be healthier internally rather than looking nice externally. I'm not really one for designer clothes or anything like that. I like the most money I spend, all my money on really is looking after myself. That's kind of what's most important for me. And that's like my spiel in terms of nutrition. And like with Johnny, with you, I mean, we can talk about this for ages, so it'll probably be hard to stay structured, but we'll just sort of, I'm sure you've got things rolling around in your head that you want to start and talk about, so we'll just kind of go like, what was your
Yeah,
initial
mate,
sort of
100%,
discovery, I
100%.
guess?
And I'll try and keep it as sort of laser focused as I come out going on mad tangents and think about ways to be able to articulate topics so that your community is getting the most benefit out of this conversation, right? But I think there's a lot to dissect about what you just said there. And going back to the very beginning, we are absolutely deceived, Tom. We're deceived on a large mass scale by capitalism ultimately. And this capitalism is to make the most profit, at the detriment of our health. So we're fooled by marketing and the whole high protein thing, right? You put high protein on anything in the supermarket and it sells. I saw one the other day, it had high protein frozen pizza. And people who are uneducated will fall for that. And look, forgive them, yeah, because it's not their fault. It's a mass scale of lack of education surrounding nutrition.
Yeah.
And it comes all the way from primary school. Even when I was back in the Cotswolds, mate, I was going into schools and doing talks for these kids. And I would look at the menus and they had two choices at dinner, and it was like a pasta and tomato sauce or chicken nuggets. And that's what this pretty affluent school, it was actually voted the third best primary school in the United Kingdom.
Wow.
And that was their lunch. So the lack of education is mass scale, society wide, and navigating our way around the supermarkets and stuff is very difficult. So the situation we're in from a societal standpoint with the way that disease is skyrocketing through the roof. It's nobody's fault but the systems. And it really is. And I used to, the more that I've developed and the more that I've matured, 5 years ago, I said, oh, well, it's individuals' fault because they're not taking accountability for their actions and they're lazy, right? But no, it's a societal issue. It's the problems with the food and the way that they're adding the preservatives and the additives. It's understandable. Like I say in my seminars, mate, am I suggesting that there is an evil cabal sitting around a big board table thinking, right, how are we going to kill them as quick as we possibly can? No, I'm not insinuating that. But what I am telling people is that the stuff they're adding into this food in order to make the best profit is very, very detrimental to society's health. Now, the emulsifiers, the bulking agents, the stabilizers, all these kind of things that are getting added. Now, the problem is, with the additives, yes, there might be legislation to say that one of these specific chemical compounds is okay for human consumption, right? There's been no scientific evidence that has done scientific studies or collated any data on an amalgamation of these chemicals. Now, anybody with a GCSE level understanding of chemistry understands that one chemical compound mixed with two or mixed with three has a totally different effect. That's why it's having such a detrimental effect in our body. And now there is scientific evidence out there to say that it's affecting our hormones. It's affecting your leptin and your ghrelin, which are hormones specifically designed to allow you to know when you're full or when you're hungry. Now, if we're eating this food that's disrupting our endocrine system, your whole hormone system, right? Now, if we're eating food that's disrupting that, we don't actually know when we're satisfied. You don't know when you're satisfied. So if it's affecting these hormones, then it's going to affect your insulin. If it's affecting your insulin, it's affecting your melatonin, your serotonin. And it's one big, massive domino effect of negativity, ultimately. And
Spirals
that's
out of control.
of course it does, mate. And that's the situation we're in right now, mate. It's a really, really sad state of affairs. So, right, enough of the doom and gloom. How do we do it? How do we fix it? How does your community fix it if they're watching this? First of all, you have to become conscious. Conscious nutrition is the name of my seminars because we have to be mindful with our food and make the correct decisions. Like what you said there, Tom, you're checking labels, you're understanding that, right, okay, 25 ingredients might not necessarily be natural food, okay? So, and 90 calories sells a lot better than 25 chemicals. And that's the way they do it. It's all calories, calories, calories. And for me, that's a very detrimental message because for your community, a calorie is a unit of measure. How much heat that food is going to provide your body with. So if I'm drinking anything like a tea or I'm eating my dinner, the calories determines how much heat that is going to provide my body with. So if I'm eating excess heat, it's going to store as fat. But is that a massive problem? Should we be so fixated on heat? Absolutely not. We should be fixated on health. Yeah, health over heat massively. Thinking about things that is going to benefit our body from longevity and health perspective. So we're thinking about whole foods, yeah? We're thinking about foods that are going to have a positive effect on our future. And you do this by, like I say, one of the most beneficial things for everybody in here is if this food never swam or flew in the sky or ran on the land or grew from the ground, it's not a positive contribution to your body. When you said at the start there, the 90-10, I love that. This whole 80-20 message that's perpetuated, I hate it because you're trying to tell me that a fifth of your entire diet can be comprised of ultra processed food that's going to kill us. It's now the leading cause of death, bar miss pharmaceuticals in America, I believe it is, isn't it? It's a wrong
Yep.
diagnosis of medications, the leading cause of death, but certainly up there now in America is ultra processed food. So you're trying to tell me that a fifth of my entire diet can be comprised of that? It's nonsense. 90-10 is a more realistic thing. I'd even push it up to 95-5 because if you're whole foods for 95% of the time, then if you really want to have a wee ice cream on a Saturday or a Sunday with your partner, fine. But here's the thing, here's the catch. People don't realize they're heavily addicted to this food, Tom, and it's addictive, and it's not their fault. It's a case of there is genuinely scientists inside labs right now trying to concoct up ways to make this as nice as possible for our brains. And you've got two different dopamine receptors in your brain. You've got one for fat and one for sugar. And when these are lit up at the same time, it lights your brain up like a Christmas tree. So it's very highly addictive. So inherently, the food is not addictive. Yeah, sugar's not addictive. The scientific evidence points us into the direction of that, but the way that they're making the food makes it very addictive because it lights up your dopamine receptors like a Christmas tree. This is why so many people have got issues. This is why so many people can't get off the ultra processed food. But it takes that level of understanding, that consciousness. How am I going to break this? Right. Well, you start using natural sugars. You start using fructose. You start using a natural, unpasteurized raw honey. You start using blueberries. You start using raspberries. If you're trying to curb your sweet tooth, you have some walnuts, maybe even walnuts cooked in a little bit of butter with some spices. I've got a Michelin star chef in my community. He showed us that one. So just
Oh,
little tricks
nice.
using whole foods in order to get off this junk that is so detrimental for our body. However, that's not me being judgmental. There's a massive difference between being judgmental and observational. I'm just merely observing the current state of the food industry. And that is the biggest problem right now is the food industry. So we have to become aware. And the positive thing is I understand your community will be receptive to this because ultimately they're inside your community in order to progress, in order to benefit their future. So this message that I'm telling them, I know they'll be more receptive to it. If you tell somebody just an average Joe blogs this message, that they're just like, that's too much. That is too much for me. But
Yeah,
but
mate, it's honestly like like the going back to the 90-10 thing is like I can't remember the statistics or how it works, how many meals it works out to be in a week. But let's just say if you eat 3 times a day for a week, it's like 21 meals, right? Then just one of those, one out of 21, like have, like you say, on a weekend, you're supposed to enjoy yourself. We're not telling you to be a robot and, just like you're not a professional athlete that's never allowed a cookie or never allowed an ice cream or never allowed to treat yourself on a weekend with your loved one, or have a glass of wine, or whatever it might be. But you have to do it and understand that you need to be able to control it and have discipline. And for me, I've been doing my nutrition's like I've been eating so healthy for like 15 years or whatever that I know what I can get away with. So if I feel like some days I'm like, you know what, oh, yeah, I do. I fancy a cookie or whatever on the weekend, then I'll get one. And it's because it's like a little treat for me because I eat so healthy. And it's just kind of like a little bit of a treat. And what people in my community should understand is that there's a huge link between the foods that we eat and inflammation in your body. If you have inflammation in your body and in your joints, and pain and tightness and injury, which a lot of people have in the community because that's what they join for. There's obviously some people in the community that are just trying to level up, and they're trying to prevent rather than cure, which is fantastic. It's always easier to prevent something than to cure it. But the people who are trying to cure some injuries, you can do all the exercise and the right things that way, rehab it and stuff. But if you don't look after what's going inside your body, it's going to make your journey so much more difficult because a car's not going to run if you don't put fuel in it. Like if you put some horrible stuff in that car, it's going to break pretty quickly. And the only thing is the difference between a car and a human being is a human body is so much more resilient and can put up with so much more rubbish and like just ill stuff for so much longer that it's such a hindrance how resilient the human body is because it can put up with so much punishment for such a long time that it's kind of too late before something happens. All the wheels start falling off, and it's people are like, oh, I get to 30 years old, and once you hit over 30, your body starts to break down, or you start to get injuries and stuff. And it's not because you're 30 years old. For most people, it's because from 15 years old to 30 years old, you've been doing things very wrong, and the body has had 15 years of abuse and neglect. It can only go on for so long. If we were similar to a car, then people would start to break down and fall apart at 17, 18 years old because it'd be a couple of years of abuse and the wheels would start to fall off.
I see. I used to see it a lot in the military. Going back, that was one of your points from the first part of the conversation. The military, you are just so kept in the dark in regards to emotions, but particularly nutrition. There's no education on nutrition properly.
It winded me up so much about the military. I hated it. Like basic training, spending hours and hours and hours learning how to iron or sew, and there's not one single lesson
Yeah,
on how to
nutrition.
cook a meal. And there's
Uh,
people set up for failure. There's lads and
no,
ladies who are 15, 16, 17 years old. They haven't done anything in life. They haven't had a job. They haven't lived away from their families. They haven't got a clue how to cook. And it's like, right, yeah, go to the mess, grab your
yeah,
food there, and it's poison. It's the worst standard quality of food you've probably ever seen.
yeah,
And people just live off Domino's pizza and kebabs. And this is the armed forces. This is like supposed to be the creme de la creme of people, who are really looking after themselves. And unfortunately, like me and Johnny, when you've been inside the walls of military, it's painted very differently to what you think it is. Like you see on the adverts, like army, be the best, and all this sort of stuff. And unfortunately, there's exceptions to the masses of there are many people in the military who are incredibly fit and incredibly healthy and incredibly aware of what they do. But the like Johnny said earlier, the average Joe Blogs or something, it's the same in the military. The average Joe Blogs military person does not know how to look after themselves, does not know how to exercise. They're stuck behind a chair all day. They're sat down. It's a recipe for disaster, and it's all kind of linked. Nutrition's linked, movement's linked. If you can just start to understand that those two tie in together, and the more awake and sort of aware you are of what's going in your body, you're just going to slowly progress, and that's kind of what these calls are going to be about.
100%, mate. And like I say, it's just starting to be inquisitive. Yeah, curiosity never killed the cat. Comfort did, I say. So it's like
Oh,
be
I was trying to
curious.
remember that. I knew you said this, and I was like, "What did he
Yeah,
say?"
yeah.
It's a good
Comfort did.
one.
Aye, and it's just a case of, we get steered away as a child to ask questions, but it's so prevalent with your nutrition. You have to make a conscious effort to understand things, and even if it's not for yourself, particularly for your children, because we have to protect them. And that's a lot of the times when I'm not saying this was your case, Tom, at all, but it sounds similar to a few cases I've seen with my nutrition coaching and stuff where kids can only maybe eat white pasta. And it's a case of lack of education with the parents because they're ultimately giving the children choices, too many choices when they're young. And it's a case of kids are opportunists, mate. They're the same as dogs. Yeah. If I put something healthy down for Murphy, if I put some I don't know, a biscuit or something, he's going to go over the biscuit. Same with kids. They're opportunists. So you can't give kids too many choices. And that's when a lot of these eating disorders come in, and then they can't physically eat like eggs because of the texture might be yucky or something. You see that all the time in adults, and unfortunately I notice it straight away as a nutritionist. I'm like, bang, that's their parents not having an understanding of nutrition because they're just not feeding them the correct things when they're young, so it's leading to a lot of problems. So therefore, as a parent and as an adult, we have to be curious about this stuff because it's so important. And like you said there, your body will pack in. That is a non-negotiable. There is no blurred lines there whatsoever, guys. If you're not investing in your nutrition, investing in your future, there is no blurred lines. You will start to get poorly. And like Tom said, it's all a big perfect mechanism, and it works in beautiful, meticulous unison with each other. And if you get one of the cogs right, if you get one of the cogs wrong, it all just starts to pile in: nutrition, mobility, fitness, mindset, mental health, and you have to just get them all right. That's what it's all about.
Yeah,
But
and it's like it is overwhelming when you discover this sort of thing, and if you're watching this video and you're thinking, oh my God, where do I start? You have to understand that it's not a marathon. Sorry, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Just take it step by step. It's exactly the same what I say to people who start my mobility journey. Mobility is hard. It's super hard to stay on top of things. It's hard to do the classes. but every single one of you know that once you've sat down and you've pressed play and you've done that 45-minute class or that hour class, whatever it might be, afterwards you're like, thank God I did that. I feel so much better. And it's
Yeah.
about building those positive habits. And it's the same with food. So what we'll do to sort of to wrap up is like, um, we'll just like people probably want like an idea of what to eat, right? And I mean, I'll say what I eat throughout the day. Johnny, you can sort of say what he recommends.
I've got a good point to raise just quickly off the back of what you've just said, Tom, before we do
Yeah.
that. So I've not long signed on a client and we made one change over the course of a week. And what he was doing, busy guy, owns his own business, busy guy, and he was having cereal when he woke up first thing in the morning. So we know that's not a good choice. Very high in sugar. It's going to spike up your blood sugar in the mornings. When we spike our blood sugar, then our insulin has to follow to convert that sugar into glucose. So first thing in the morning, you've got your hormones coursing all through your body. Insulin's also the fat storing hormone. So big problems. We made one switch. We swapped his first meal for eggs and walnuts, and he lost weight. Even though he upped his calories, he lost weight. His body composition changed within a week. Oh my goodness, I feel so much better. So when you said there, yes, you might be feeling overwhelmed, but this is the change that we can make. One small, significant change can have astronomical benefits in your life. And that's how simple it is. Just with an understanding, right? Well, I have to change my sugary cereal breakfast here for something that's more satiating. Yes, satiating means keeps you fuller for longer. So I'm changing it for a high fat, high protein breakfast. That will completely and utterly transform the whole dynamics of someone's day. And it's one small thing. That's it. So
Yeah.
that's
And fats aren't bad. Like fat has a terrible label of, like you go, I hate it. You go to places and it's like no fat Greek yogurt.
mm.
What's all that all about? Like
Do you know why it is, Tom? Do you know why it is, Tom? Talking about the food industry, because fat is the most nutrient dense part of any food. So, like I spoke about, capitalism is killing us. Why? Because they strip the fat out of things because it's the most expensive thing. Then they can replace the fat, the animal, genuine nutrient dense fat, with bulking agents, stabilizers, all this stuff that's filling up these yogurts that's not actually real food, it's
Mm,
synthetic substitutes for this real fat. So then that thing that was perpetuated, what was it, late 60s, I think, it was perpetuated within the whole health and fitness industry, actually started really, really, really affecting people. When this whole fat was demonized, it went like that. And they managed to get away with it because fat is higher calories, right? Going back to what I said at the start, calories are just a unit of measure, heat. You've got 9 calories per gram of fat as opposed to 4 calories per gram of carbohydrates and protein. So that's why the fat gets such a bad rep, because it's got 9 calories per grams as opposed to your 4. That's the only reason it gets a bad rep. Your brain is comprised of like 60 to 70% of fat. We need fat. We need fat. So never be scared of fat. And the thing is, when you make this substitute and you start implementing this 90-10 rule, it's very, very, very hard to overeat, guys. Very hard to overeat. Almost impossible, right? Because what happens is after 2, 3 weeks, your body starts to feel satisfied. You don't want to be going constantly in the snack cupboard because your body's replenished with minerals and nutrients and goodness, and that's what it's all about. It's about thinking consciously. And like I say, if people can start to think, do I need this food or do I want this food?
mm,
Difficult question. It
yeah.
is a difficult question to answer honestly, but when you can truly, honestly answer that question, a lot of the times you're just eating out of sheer and utter gluttony.
Yeah.
But it's a whole other conversation. But yeah, I mean, if you want to go through what you're kind of eating throughout the day, what your looks like, brilliant.
Yeah, like I mean, just because for me, when I was learning, it's always good to take bits out of other people's, who have done it for some time. But please don't, like I said at the start of the call, what I eat might not be for you. You just have to experiment. As long as you're trying to eat healthy, one ingredient foods like we've discussed, that's going to help you. For me, what I've really noticed makes a difference in my day, especially when I start my day, is replenishing the electrolytes lost through sleep. I'll have like a big bit of water with some honey and some Celtic salt in it. And that'll just get me going for the day. And then I'll try and wait a couple of hours before eating. And then when I do eat, it'll be something like always eggs. I do eat eggs in the morning. I'll have some eggs scrambled with maybe some with like a big bowl of berries, some fruit, and that'll be pretty much me sorted. Maybe a handful of nuts, like walnuts or something, and then like lunch and dinner. I'm sort of meal prepping, and it's just the same as it's always been. I try and make my food nutritious and health, like tasty. I love tasty food. Food's probably it runs my life. If I don't have good food, I'm miserable. And that's probably the same for a lot of people. But like food is so important in terms of just being a human being. Food brings us together. It's like it makes you happy. It's you're supposed to be sat around the table and talking to people and learning as you eat. And it's like food is a huge, huge part of life. So like if you're just like rushing around and grabbing a food and just eating it and then not really taking time to sit and enjoy your food, that's another huge aspect that we can talk about on another day. But like yeah, lunch and dinner is like healthy, organic protein of some sort, trying to be as I go to the farmers market, every weekend and I speak to farmers and I say, how is this being sourced? Because if you're just going to any old supermarket and you're buying the cheapest meat you can buy, I promise you, it's not good for you. It's terrible. Like if you were traumatized for your entire life inside without any sunlight and fed horrible foods to bulk you up and get you fat, and then you were just slaughtered in the most traumatic ways, would you feel comfortable eating that? And this is like another discussion that could go on for a long time, and I'm so passionate about it. Is like we have lost the connection from where we get our food to on the plate. Like thousands and thousands of years ago, we would have hunted our food and there would have been a connection. And then people would have been like so grateful for this, like, thank you for giving me this meal. Thank you for like giving me this meal like from the land. Like I'm super beneficial. I'm super grateful for this. Today, you can just go and grab a packet. You have no idea where it's come from. It doesn't even look like it was a living thing once. And meat was living. It was an animal. It was an animal that was aware. It had feelings. It can feel pain. It can be happy. It can be sad. So you have to be grateful that you have the opportunity to just go and eat this thing because it didn't want to die at the end of the day. It probably didn't want to die. So we're so fortunate to be top of the food chain and not have other people trying to hunt us and put us in supermarkets in packages. So just be aware of that. Try and get your protein from locally sourced in like humane ways, basically. Try and be aware of that. And then a little bit of that is if your protein. The rest of my plate is I was told once by one of my trainers in the military, and it's really stuck, is try and make your plate as colorful as possible. Obviously with natural colors, like not like like loads of Lucky Charms or something, but like fruit, veggies, colorful, like red peppers, yellow peppers, greens, like blueberries, bananas, like strawberries, whatever it might be. Just eat lots of colorful stuff, whatever you like. I love berries. I love peppers. I love fruit and veggies now because I just fry them up with mushrooms, a little bit of spices, some chili, and that's what I do. I eat stuff like that, and that's sort of what my meal would be throughout the day.
This is another good point as well. So you're saying about the colourful thing. I like that, Tom. It's good sort of thing to stick by, but also for your community. If you can think your fist size, right? So that's all individually dependent on your size and stature. So if you can think carbohydrates, protein, and vegetables or fruit, if each of your plates are comprised of that 3 to 4 meals per day, you're going to be in very good stead. So you're putting your protein, which is going to be your nice, good quality meats, like you said, then you try and stick with your unrefined carbohydrates away from your pastas, your noodles, all that. You even use a basmati rice because it's got a lower glycemic index, or you can use your sweet potatoes, like I said at the start. If it's coming from the ground, fantastic, you're in good stead. But that's a good one. I don't get my calories to get my calories. I don't get my clients to count calories. That's a tongue twister, that, mate. I don't get them to count calories. So that's a little principle that I teach them, and it always works. And then after a couple of weeks, oh my God, I've lost so much weight. It's like because you're portion controlling so much better.
Keeping it simple. Yeah, and
Aye, but
that's
I
yeah.
like
I
you.
didn't mention carbs. Is yeah, potatoes, sweet potatoes, rice. That's pretty much the three things that I'll stick to.
Aye. 100%. But well, going back to the food there, Tom, this when I explain this to people, I see their eyes going, ah, that makes sense. So if you're going to feed a cow ultra processed food from the minute it's born to the minute it gets slaughtered for food, like you say, that connection thing's brilliant. Watch the movie Avatar when they kill their food and they pray for it and they say thank you so much for sacrificing yourself in order, like that's beautiful. But if you think about it, if these animals are getting fed all this ultra processed shit, the equivalent of us eating our ultra processed food, they're sick. They give off worse meat. They have to get filled with antibiotics because they're so sick. They're developing cancerous tumors. Now, there's videos you can go and search yourself. Butchers having to physically cut out the cancerous tumors before that they're putting the meat on the shelf. It's disgusting. So if you can find an ethical farm who is genuinely grass feeding their animals off nature. So if the cattle or the animal or the livestock is eating nature, go figure. It's so much healthier for us. Therefore, if we're eating nature and we're staying away from the grains, the ultra processed food, we are so much healthier. It all starts to make sense and click. And every time you go a wee bit deeper, you're like, oh, okay, right, that makes sense. Like, right, well, I should always be having my salt, but it has to be natural salt because the table salt is the salt that's ultimately been ultra processed with fluorides, with additives. So that's what's causing the problem with the blood pressure and causing problems with blocked arteries, not the mineral salt. Mineral salt's the most healthiest thing you can ever have. I went and collected it myself from the Mediterranean Ocean. It's got 84 trace minerals in it. Genuinely so beneficial for us. So we start to think nature, bring it all back to that. It's so beneficial. And if you are focusing on quality over quantity, you're in such good stead. But in regards to my diet, Tom, I'm very much the same as you. I break my fast. So fasting, and a lot of people don't even know this, mate. Breakfast, fast break. When are you breaking your fast? Breakfast. So people say, I skipped my breakfast today. I never ate till lunch. No, you never skipped your breakfast. You just had your breakfast at lunchtime. You broke your fast at lunchtime. So have that with something that's high protein, high fat. Yeah, nice 6 eggs. Brilliant. Amazing breakfast eggs to break your fast with. It's going to keep you so much fuller for longer. Then I'm the same as you, mate. If my meals are comprised of, I love sweet potato, bro. I think it's the best carb we can eat. It's like I say, it's a wee bit more calorie dense than white potatoes, but who cares? It's good for us. Yeah, that's what we think. When we think health over calories, we're flying. And then it'll be a nice bit of chicken. Like I say, you try and source this stuff from ethical places. I'm in Cyprus just now, so I can go and get village chickens, mate. They don't taste anything like the chicken back home in the UK. But you know, nice quality meat, and then it'll be your. And then I actually just use frozen veg meat. So and
Yeah.
even for your community in the States, I know you've got a high percentage of your communities in America. So stick with the frozen veg, man, because a lot of the stuff is so sprayed with pesticides and all that and herbicides that it's bad. It's bad for us. And what's happened in the UK now, one of the pesticides has actually been banned. It got banned in 2018, right? But the UK still ships it across to Brazil and ships it across to Portugal for money. And then guess where we buy our food back from? Literally still giving us disease. And here's another thing for your community as well. You have to be so conscious of this methane reducing drug called Bovier. You have to be conscious of this. Make sure that in the States you're not using milk that's got this Bovier in it, because what one of the chemical compounds inside this Bovier, it's called nitrooxypropane. Nitrooxypropane. And if you can go and Google that yourself, go and look at some of the Wikipedia or any of the PubMed studies, it's harmful to inhale the smell of this particular chemical, yet they're putting it inside cattle for us to then eat their milk. So again, food industry absolutely compromised. But if this is all overwhelming for people and they don't know where to start, have a look into paleo. Now, I know it's might seem a little bit restrictive, but paleo derives from the Greek word balios. It means old. So before the food industry was compromised, it's also known as the healing diet. Now, if you can just look at paleo, just become curious of it, right? Okay, well, I can eat my eggs, I can eat my grass-fed beef, I can eat my fish, and I can eat my refined, my unrefined carbohydrates, then you're in really good stead. It demonizes a lot of fruit and some veg because of the lectins, but I dispute that, mate. I dispute the fact that broccoli is bad for us because I think we have to be exposed to some chemicals, right? Or not even chemicals, some of nature's natural defense mechanism, because these lectins are ultimately because broccoli have not got teeth or they've not got claws, so they can't attack a saber-toothed tiger for coming to eat them. So
Same
they
as
secrete.
chilies, right? Like hot chilies.
Aye, exactly. They secrete stuff. Yeah, yeah, you're spot on there, mate. That's a great analogy. So, but it's beneficial for us. Eating chilies is one of the most healthy things that we can eat. Flushes out your system, anti-inflammatory properties, fantastic. So, aye, if they can look at that, think about stuff like this. Balios, it derives from the Greek word balios, old, paleo. So it's just, if you were to consolidate, you see what I mean? This is where when I'm going to start with this and I'm going to end with it. If you can consolidate this last however long, 1 hour we've been on, about 50 minutes, without getting overwhelmed, if you can think about just becoming conscious with your nutrition. Ask yourself questions. Yeah. And if you pick up things and it's got loads of things on the back of the label, then you know it's not going to be beneficial for your body, right? Is having a fizzy juice in the morning going to be beneficial? Is having a freshly squeezed orange juice from a carton in an American Walmart going to be beneficial for your breakfast? No. Think. Now, the vast majority of your community are from America. America is absolutely and utterly compromised. Hopefully, Robert Kennedy is going to do some good work with the FDA. You look at the FDA, the Food and Drug Association across your way, guys, it's 75% funded by big pharmaceuticals. That's all I'll say. Curiosity. Curiosity. Yeah. Ask questions. Keep going. Keep digging. Keep learning. Expanding your knowledge. Nothing that you learn about health, longevity, fitness is going to be a negative thing that you'll regret.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Johnny, thank you so much. This is, I'm sure we'll do more. We'll talk about lots more. And if anyone in my community is interested in learning more about nutrition, Johnny is he's in the Supper Warriors too. He's inside. He runs his own group on school in the wing, so he's very busy. So that's probably why you don't see him much in my group. And I'm the same flip reverse for him. But we always like to work together. I've had a few people from his community join mine. If anyone in my community wants to learn more about nutrition, send him a message or send a message to me, and I'll link you guys up. And if there are any males who are struggling in terms of their mental health and they just feel a little bit overwhelmed, the wing is fantastic as well. It's like we the Supper Warriors and the wing. There's a lot of things that the lines cross. There a lot of similarities, but there's so much you can learn from Johnny and from people in that group too. So if if things here sparks your interest in terms of nutrition mindset, give me a message and we'll get you in touch. And yeah, we'll do another one soon. Thank you so much, Johnny. And I'll stop this recording
Very,
now.
very kind words, Tom. Obviously, just as well, Tom's going to you're coming to our retreat on the 13th of May.
Yep.
You came at the first one as well. Tom was fantastic on that. So if anybody's interested from Tom's community, we've got a retreat in the north of Scotland that's going to be a phenomenal experience on the 13th of May. But like you say, give me a message, hit me up, and we'll go from there. But I really, really, really thankful for you inviting me on, Tom. That was really good fun.